Folks, we were robbed. I'm not saying just Raptors fans, but I'm saying fans of basketball. As tonight, for 45 minutes, there was an absolute dogfight. An entertaining basketball game between our Toronto Raptors and the top team in the NBA on the road. They came out, they fought every single second. And then late in the fourth quarter, both ways, right? This game turned from an absolute classic regular season, mid-season game during the new Poeltl era, whereas the Raptors are making their run, win, lose, draw, however it ends up going, right? This was making up to be one of the top games of the season, and it was robbed from us. The referees got their little mitts, got their little whistles in at the end of the game. And sure, I'm not blaming the loss on the referees, but I'm blaming just the disappointing finish. As a basketball fan, we want to see these games closed out by the players. We want to see the guys on the court be able to knock down some shots, get the rebounds, hustle for the plays, decide it on that front. It shouldn't be just soft little free throws when you're breathing on players left, right, and center. Every single possession, it felt like in the last 2 minutes of this game, the play was blown down due to a little incidental contact, a little touch here and there. Sure, they might get called in grade 3, youth basketball or something like that. But in a game, closing out the regular season with this is a big game, especially for the Raptors on this front. This isn't a throw it away regular season game and stuff. Like, calling things like that, I know it's not the playoffs and stuff, but that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable, and a moment that changed it, and where a lot of Raptors fans might blame this loss on, even though the Denver Nuggets deserve all the credit. We'll get more analysis going about this game as the podcast goes along, but the Denver Nuggets played amazing. The Raptors played very, very well throughout this game as well, but to have all these touch fouls being called, and then Scottie Barnes, you look at the replay, you look at what happened. Scottie Barnes at the end of this game, right? Weird calls being thrown out, left, right, and center. Scottie gets called for getting grabbed by Nikola Jokic for some reason. It was a clear no call. If anything, Jokic initiated the contact. Jokic gets a couple of free throws. Then Scottie Barnes, there's kind of a makeup call. He does get tapped on the wrist, even though he did sort of initiate the contact on the other end. The challenge doesn't go his way, so he's immediately frustrated. And then to close out this game, right, the real possession that put the nail in the coffin for the Toronto Raptors, Aaron Gordon comes down and gets touched, gets grazed, a nice little light rub on the shoulder from Poeltl, right? Play is blown down once again. 2 free throws for Aaron Gordon, and then all Scottie Barnes does, you can look at the replay, you can see it, right? And it's unacceptable in a moment like that to get a technical, but I'm not even blaming Scottie Barnes at this point, because he's just standing there like, what's going on? Now, we don't know exactly what he's saying, right? We don't know, maybe I'll make a news video, maybe he said something insane right under his breath, but, from the looks of it, from the eye test, just watching this game that just happened, Scottie just had his hands up like this. What's going on there? Blown out. I don't know if it was the second technical of the game. I was too just enthralled with what just happened. I'm getting this reaction as soon as I can following this one, but they just throw him out. No, not even just a tee. They just threw him out of the game. And a game close as that, right? Where Aaron Gordon, if he knocks down those 2 free throws, right, it's still a 1-possession game. We can have an exciting close, an exciting finish, for it to just end off with a tee getting blown down, Raptors down by 4, and then they go hack a Poeltl, which we'll talk about in this game. Just absolutely unacceptable. And I'm not saying that is the reason we're lost. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Denver Nuggets win. I'm just saying that we're robbed as fans. They're robbed as players to go out there and have the game decided by a few whistles to close it out. Just horrific refereeing. Both ends. There's bad calls happening on both sides. Just embarrassing showing. If you're a fan of refs, maybe you're happy about this one because they got to decide. Scott Foster had a career night with whistles blown, but man, that end was brutal. I came out here. I'm heated on this podcast. I'm not even destroying it. I don't even know if I gave the score of this game. The Toronto Raptors lost this game 118 to 113. This was but overall, now that I'm calming down a little bit, sure, we had the L. It would have been a massive win for this Raptors team, but on the road in Denver with elevation, all that sort of stuff, it was a tough odds for the Toronto Raptors coming in here trying to get this win. But, we put on a solid performances. Now, there was some issues, and we'll talk about those, but let's get the positives rolling first. And the guy that we need to talk about, Fred VanVleet in this one. Sure, he had a turnover late. He missed a tough pull-up three, which he doesn't make them like Kyle Lowry used to make them. Those momentum swinging shots. Sure, mid-game, it doesn't really matter, but Fred doesn't have a good track record of the crazy pull-ups. If Fred VanVleet's open, right, a set shot where there's no one around him, yes, take those. But Fred VanVleet, we don't want these dribble pull-up threes, but I'm here to praise Fred VanVleet right now. But basically, Fred in this one, 21 points, 14 assists, 2 steals, 5 of 12 from the field, 3 of 9 from the three-point line, and some people might say, oh, it's inefficient from Fred, 5 of 12 or whatever, but Fred VanVleet, you watch this game, was really carrying the Raptors offense with his facilitating, throwing. He works the pick and roll game with Jakob Poeltl like a maestro. He's down there driving into the lane, throwing these little dump off passes, and it seems like the Raptors offense has sort of evolved even game by game now that we have Jakob Poeltl into the roster. We're doing a lot of different things where dunkers are sort of cutting the baseline a little bit more. Those passes are more available, right? Those high-low feeds we saw from day one with Jakob Poeltl into this mix, but now we got some actual pick and roll actions. He's catching the ball mid-low, and then, Fred VanVleet, right? Usually those passes were coming from Big Yak, right, making dimes and stuff. But now Fred, when he comes off of those screens, we're running a few, cross-court actions where the ball's getting thrown underneath. He's hitting Siakam underneath the rim, OG, Chris Boucher. So really, the offense is looking a little bit more smooth, even though the Raptors don't necessarily have a track record of having the most aesthetically pleasing offense, at least over the past couple of years. But Fred VanVleet facilitating all of that is a big reason why that's the case. So, we saw how ugly it was in the few games that he was out, with the death in his family and his having his third child. So, Fred VanVleet tonight was, for all the people that bash on him every single game in our comment section, I don't know how you're going to trash on him that much in this after this game. Our offense looks infinitely times better with him out there on the court, especially when he's not selling every single shot. And he was 3 for 9 from the three-point line tonight, but having a true point guard out there is a huge plus. And Jakob Poeltl in this one doesn't get many plays called for him, right? Tonight had it wasn't actually guarding. It was OG really locked in on Nikola Jokic, but Poeltl was cleaning up the glass, doing everything on the backside help. But 18 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists for Jakob Poeltl, 9 of 13 from the field. Get the box score up so you guys can see it. But Big Yak, man, what an addition to this team, right? He's out there, and the Toronto Raptors have been trying to run OG at the center, and that's why I feel like we went with that 6'9" vision, because in the playoffs we said, hey, we can have this pace and space team, and OG's capable of guarding big men. That was sort of the realization I think Nick Nurse and Masai Ujiri had during the bubble season, during that series against the Celtics, where we kind of went to those smaller ball unit lineups for a lot of times during those 2020 playoffs. And obviously the big issue with that is even if OG's locked in on a guy like Nikola Jokic, where OG did as good of a job as you can on the 2-time MVP, right? Jokic was held pretty cold throughout most of this game, or just not allowed to shot, facilitate a bunch, but, he's out there guarding there, and then we didn't really have a guy in the back end that can clean up the glass. We get killed on the boards. We wouldn't really have any help side defenders out there. If OG's out there, guarding a big or switched on to someone like that. Precious has also filled that role. So, having a true big man, whether he's guarding the centers or not, helps us clean up the glass. That rim protection is immensely valuable for this team. And then the Raptors were up for a huge chunk of this game. So, it's a big showing for Big Yak, right? Scotty Barnes in this one had 12 points, 9 rebounds, couple assists. I gotta have the box score up a bit faster, but Scotty Barnes needs to be a little bit more engaged out there on the court. There's moments, there's flashes of greatness, but he had the worst plus minus in this game. And I'm going to talk about the rotations and stuff going on as this vid goes along. But OG tonight, 12 points, knocked down his threes, which was great. Didn't take a lot of shots, but he was guarding Jokic, so I guess the energy was expended guarding the multi-time MVP. And Pascal Siakam, he's been in a little bit of a cold stretch recently. 19 points, 8 of 18 from the field. This one, he knocked down a couple of middies. He had a couple of just open layups that he sold. Right, it's tough. 37 minutes for Pascal and elevation and all that. The defense is locked in on him. I think if he just picks his spots a little bit better, because we don't mind Pascal taking some tougher middies at times because he has improved in that area. But when He's trying to get his game going. You have a smaller guard on you because the Nuggets have some elite wing defenders. Even if they're smaller in Pascal and Bruce Brown, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they switch a couple of those guys, Aaron Gordon obviously, on to Pascal, and it's a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup for him to get around and attack the rim and stuff on those guys. So, could have facilitated a little bit more, especially if those doubles come. But again, Pascal's been our guy this entire season. I'm not worried about him bouncing back into form. But off the bench, Chris Boucher, 2 of 6 from the field. It'd be nice if Boucher would be knocking down his threes the same way, but I thought he had a solid game. Precious Achiuwa, one of his better games in recent weeks. 9 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Had a gorgeous pass to Chris Boucher in this one. And Will Barton knocked down 3 in this game. Missed a couple of shots. His defense still is engaged. He got blown by a couple times in this team. I'm waiting for that Will Barton scoring output, that scoring game. It really puts him onto the map for this team. But only 11 minutes for Will Barton. But one thing I do want a little bone I have to pick with Nick Nurse in this game is I like the minutes distribution in terms of the starters, with the exception of Pascal. Like, this is a fine distribution for minutes in the starting lineup. But Gary Trent Jr., especially, I guess the offense wasn't struggling too much, but Gary wasn't getting crushed or anything on the defensive end. Only getting 23 minutes off the bench when he's 6-9 from the field. He's hitting some tough shots, right? He really swung the momentum early in the fourth quarter. Especially to close games, and we'll talk, obviously, I ranted at the whole beginning of this podcast about the referees ruining the flow, killing this game for both teams at the end of this one, but Gary Trent Jr. is a guy I like to have the ball in his hands more than a Fred VanVleet, than even a Pascal Siakam if we're going to run more ISO sets, ISO plays. I want the ball in Gary Trent Jr.'s hand, especially Scotty Barnes, who had a weird take there. But I don't even mind the ball in Scotty Barnes' hands when he's rolling a little bit more. But Gary should be out there closing games. And this is something that we saw, right? In the second last possession, we were down by 4, right? Nikola Jokic, I think it was intentional, ended up hacking Jakob Poeltl. And Poeltl was 9 of 10, I think, in his last free throws coming into this game. But, yeah, he was. That's what the broadcast said. And he's a 60% free throw shooter. He's not an effective three-point free throw shooter. I guess Aaron Gordon knocked down his 2 with his 50-60 percentage from the free throw line. But Gary Trent Jr. play some offense, defense with Big Yak to close the game. In the last 2 minutes, something there. Right, Nick Nurse has to manage those rotations a little bit more. And you got to find a way to get Gary more run. You got to find a way to do it. It's, especially he's rolling like that. Especially where he's a free agent this summer, right? If he's not getting minutes on this team, he's going to walk for nothing. So, I don't know. That's my take there. And I also want to give a lot of love to Jamal Murray. Nuggets are one of my favorite teams in the league. I thought the Nuggets played a solid game. They're energetic on defense and stuff. And Jamal Murray, watching him play is an absolute pleasure. Because he doesn't take over games in the sense like the ball has to be in his hands the whole time. He's not a guy that's, ball dominant. Even though he's a bucket getter at the point guard position, he doesn't force too much. And, tonight, like, you look at the box score, you wouldn't even think Jamal Murray had an insane game. I guess the efficiency would, but 24 points, 5 assists. But the way he can just take over. Big moments, right? Big moment, Jamal Murray. We saw it when he was U18 for Team Canada playing in those FIBA qualifiers or whatever they were. Jamal Murray can just get hot in a hurry when it matters most. And that's an insane skill to have. He hits the tough shots. He gets the rim. He's extremely athletic. They got a good one. We can get Jamal Murray on the Raptors at some point in my life. I would very much appreciate it. But I don't know. I think the Nuggets might be slept on a little bit in terms of winning the chip this year. I guess, they haven't been healthy the last 2 seasons. Nikola Jokic stepped up to MVP form. Good showing against a good team for the Toronto Raptors in this game tonight. So I'm not stressed about the Raptors' performance. I'm not saying that, the Nuggets earned this win. Don't get me wrong with my referee rant, but it is what it is. Great game all around until it was robbed from us by the referees. But let me know what you guys think about this game in the comment section below. You guys have best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And if you guys are interested in sports betting, definitely check out the Cool Bet Sportsbook. Sportsbook regulated in Ontario. They're available all across Canada, and you can bet on every single Toronto Raptors game, NBA game, really any sport in general. So shout out to Cool Bet for supporting the podcast in recent weeks. Anyways, folks, you guys are the best for making this far. I'm signing out. Cheers.